a lot of people feel that Pakistan has been suffering a lot. We have lots of suicide bombings going on. The society has become very volatile. How do you think that can improve?
First of all, I want to recognize how Pakistan is as much a victim as other places have been. If you count up the number of people who died because of terrorism and that kind of violence, it's far greater in Pakistan than it was in New York at the World Trade Center. So we just need to acknowledge the sacrifice being made in Pakistan. We also need to recognize that some of the people who get involved in these things do it because they've been misled. So one of the greatest things I think that the world can do is to recognize the desire for education in Pakistan and help the people who are both with the World Food Programme in other ways, saying that both boys and girls in school should get a good meal and get a good education. And that the old-fashioned idea that you just take the boys and you just have what is I think it might be a misreading of the madrasa movement, is a good thing to recognize. That the greater number of people who have primary education and hopefully secondary education, and especially if girls can be as involved as boys, you find that the birth rate comes down voluntarily. That a lot of people say, I want to go to college, I'm not going to start getting married or having children so early, and that then leads to a virtuous cycle of a country which the economy grows, but the standard of living grows as well, because the population is not growing quite so fast. I also believe that if those who start going to Pakistan to try to join a minority who want to create violence and suicide bombers, that they're told, actually Pakistan doesn't think this is a very good idea, and that some of the video messages you may have got from leaders we need or need not name is not just the only way of interpreting what your purpose is here on this earth.
People of Pakistan have already rejected those doctrine. I mean, these were not...
I'm not saying the majority, but
I think I would not even say, I think the 100%. Those sort of statements and those tapes that have been coming out, none of them happen to be from Pakistan. These are foreigners that have actually been brought there at the time of the first Afghan invasion, when the Soviets came in. So, you know, it's a historical baggage.
I also have to recognize, of course, that it was the West that encouraged a number of things to happen when they were concerned with getting the Russians out of Afghanistan, which has had a tiger in the tail, if I can put it that way. But what I was trying to say is that how can you find a way in which not just the elites in Pakistan, but the ordinary people to whom money is and they live on cash, they certainly don't live on credit, they have a hard life. How can their prospects improve? I think you can just learn by saying that the ambitions of the ordinary father and mother, the grandfather and the grandmother, are the ones you might need to allow people to work out, so what's good for them becomes good for their country. I think that the way I used to explain it when I was involved in Northern Ireland, when I was twice the target of IRA activity, is the person who may want to put a bomb under my car has 4 people around who know they're doing it. Each of those 4 has 4 more who think they have a link, and 64 people do not have to have it explained. If you get to the stage where the 64 have to have it explained, the pressure on the people in the middle gets very great, and you then get them out of the way, and you can then have a better life on the Pakistan side of the Afghan border, on the Afghan side. And you know, it's like in Afghanistan, the one thing we do know is that the vast majority of Afghans do not want to have a Taliban government again. Thank you very much. They've had the experience of having it in the first place.
And of course, we've just heard from the British Foreign Secretary that they will be sort of having some dialogue with the good elements within Afghanistan.
More precisely, he said, he expected that the government of Afghanistan would try to reach out to the moderate people who are part of what you might call the Taliban movement, or he would, the Taliban movement, and swing them from violence to being productive.
Do you think that there's a realization, not just in Britain but also in America with the new president there, and you know, of course, after Tony Blair, Mr. Gordon Brown here in charge, the change in the way they want to handle this issue of terrorism?
Yes, but it's more than that. I don't know how far President Barack Obama's Cairo speech got reported. I thought it was a very effective speech. I thought he wasn't just even-handed, he was balanced, he was forward-looking. And I believe if what he said then can turn into American and, in simple terms, Western approaches to issues which are not in, so to speak, of the West, I think they've been more helpful. But most of all, we have to say to people, we cannot resolve the problems which you are best able to identify, to diagnose, and to take action on. And a lot of that action needs to be positive, rather than just saying we are against terrorism, we are against this, we are against that. You've got to be in favour of things. You've got to let people work out the task they can achieve themselves, the team they want to be part of, and how they can develop as individuals. I think that probably applies even more in Pakistan than it does in many other countries.
Many people in Pakistan are, of course, concerned with not just the many areas of concern, but one of the areas which relates, of course, to the West is the way the sovereignty of the country is being challenged by American drones when they violate the airspace, come inside, choose targets and go away. Now, as a British principle of international justice and of sovereignty of a nation, it is completely counterproductive. It does not, no international law would allow that. How do you feel as a British parliamentarian when you see this kind of violation taking place?
I don't know what agreements there are, or what unwritten agreements there are, or whatever else is going on. I did rather get the impression that you could learn what my reaction might be if I were to be explicit by saying that we have heard the Queen is not planning to go to Bermuda because the Americans have got the Bermudans to accept 4 Uyghurs from Guantanamo Bay, people who probably should never have been in Guantanamo Bay in the first place, and she's not going to be there for the 400th anniversary of Bermuda. So I think you can accept Britain thinks that the rule of law is the best way of governing international relationships. But I don't want to start saying that the people who are trying to track down very, very bad people, who may be in Waziristan or maybe in the Swat Valley, what I can say, of course, is that if you try to conduct operations from 20,000 feet, an awful lot of people get killed who you wished were not going to be killed. So things can be counterproductive.
We talk about international law, we talk about justice, we talk about human rights, you talk about respecting a country's sovereignty. And this is a friend, this is a country that has been fighting with the US, with the world community, in sort of condemning terrorism. You know, if another country, which is a closer ally of the Britain, starts sending drones into that country, don't you think as British politician you should condemn it?
I've given you a fairly clear answer. I'll give you another answer, which is when I was most recently in Kandahar and in Helmand, because I don't think politicians should send troops to areas they don't go to themselves. And I've been to Iraq as well. When I was in Helmand, who were the people who were coming out to try to kill the people I was with? Most of them were not Afghans. Most of them had not developed and grown up in Afghanistan. They'd come across an international border, illegally. Now, the ideal thing, I suppose, is to try to do what the United States does with Mexico, which is to have a physical barrier and just catch people as they come through. Even so, thousands of Mexicans or people from Mexico get through that barrier every week. The same thing is happening at the moment on the Pakistan-Afghan border. The basic principle is you answer your own question by saying, of course, you shouldn't have these people coming from Pakistan into Afghanistan, and you shouldn't have people coming from Afghanistan or Nevada into Pakistan. Both are true.
And you shouldn't have drones attacking. Many of the targets are civilians. I mean, there's no way of finding out.
The quality of my answer doesn't improve with repetition.
But do you think that it is right for the drones to carry on what they're doing?
I've already said, and to say it the third time, you either run out of questions or you weren't listening to the answer.
No, I'm just looking for my answer. No, I'm just looking for my answer, but you're obviously not choosing to give it. It's your choice. Politicians have a right to choose their answers. Moving on, in terms of, like I said, we talked about democracy in Pakistan. Now, the challenges that Pakistan faces, friends around the world need to support Pakistan in dealing with their challenges, because a stable Pakistan is in the interest of not just the region but also Great Britain. More than 1 million Muslims.
A stable, prosperous Pakistan, where people are reasonably content with what's going on, is probably one of the most important things in the world. Pakistan's a big country. Pakistan has a powerful army. Pakistan has relationships with powerful neighbours. Pakistan is a place where central government has some power and control, local government in some places has some power and control, and Pakistan is a place where not everyone thinks they've yet got to the stage where you can be happy that things are dealt with completely on merit. So I think that everything we can do to understand Pakistan, and when Pakistan says, can we cooperate on something,